All right, let's jump right in. If you run a business, I bet you've had that little voice in your head telling you your website just isn't working anymore. But that leads to a really big question, right? Do you just give it a fresh coat of paint, a redesign, or do you need to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it from the ground up? We're going to figure that out today.
It's such a common feeling. You've poured time, money, probably a little bit of your soul into this website, and it just sits there. It's not generating leads, it's not making the phone ring, it just feels like a dead weight. And you're left wondering, what is going wrong here?
So, does any of this ring a bell? The inquiries have kind of trickled to a stop. You do a quick Google search, and your competitors are all sitting pretty at the top. And maybe the worst one of all, people are visiting your site, you can see it in the analytics, but they just vanish. They don't call, they don't email. These are the classic warning signs.
Okay, to find the right cure, we have to get the diagnosis right. And that means figuring out if we're dealing with a surface problem or structural one. Think of it like this. Are we just dealing with peeling paint, or are the very foundations of the house cracked? Because that's the difference. A redesign fixes the surface. A rebuild fixes the structure.
So, a redesign is all about that surface level stuff, the look and the feel. It's where you sharpen up your messaging, you fix clunky page layouts, you make the whole thing look modern and professional. But, and this is the key, the engine under the hood, the actual platform your site is built on, that stays exactly the same.
A rebuild, on the other hand, well, that's a whole different ballgame. This is major surgery. We're swapping out that underlying engine. We're not just painting the car anymore. We're giving it a brand new chassis. Why? To fix those deep foundational issues with how Google sees you, your ability to grow, and maybe most importantly, who's actually in control. And that brings us to the single most important question you have to ask yourself. Seriously, this is it. Is your problem getting people to your website in the first place? That's a traffic problem. Or is your problem getting the people who are already there to actually do something? To call you, to buy from you? That's a conversion problem. Your answer to that one question changes everything.
So let's start with conversion. This is the road you go down when you're getting visitors. The traffic is there, people are showing up to the party, but nobody's dancing. They're not taking that next step you need them to take.
Look, if you've got people on your site but they aren't turning into leads, 9 times out of 10, the problem is your messaging. What you're saying simply isn't connecting. It's failing to answer that one critical question that every single visitor is thinking, why you? Why should I pick you over all the other options out there?
Oh man, we've all seen websites that say this, right? It's all about we're friendly, we're old, we do stuff. The problem is, your competitors are saying the exact same thing. This kind of copy tells a potential customer absolutely nothing useful.
And here's where that generic messaging really hurts your business. When you sound just like everybody else, the only tool a customer has to make a decision is price. And just like that, you're in a race to the bottom, attracting people who are just shopping for the cheapest quote instead of your ideal client. So, a redesign can absolutely be the right move if your foundation is strong. If the tech side of your site is solid, if you're in control of it, if you can easily add a new blog post or service page, and if the main problem really is just weak messaging or a confusing layout, then yeah, a redesign can be a game changer.
But what if your problem is traffic? What if no one's even showing up to the party in the first place? Well, this is a much deeper issue, and it means we need to think about a structural fix. We need to think smarter. Let's just be blunt about it. If you're not getting traffic from search engines, it's because, for all intents and purposes, Google doesn't know you exist, or it can't figure out what you do. And no amount of beautiful design or fancy fonts is going to fix a website that's basically invisible.
And notice what these issues are. They're all structural. They're baked into the very architecture of your site. Things like not having separate pages for each service you offer, or not being able to easily add new content. You can't just paper over these cracks with a redesign. You're fighting a losing battle. There's this perfect example of a client who kept throwing money at redesigns. They'd fix one thing, but because the foundation was so shaky, another problem would just pop up somewhere else. It was this frustrating, expensive cycle that never actually solved the root cause. It got so bad that the website, the tool that was supposed to be their #1 marketing asset, just became this huge burden. It was slow, it was clunky, and worst of all, no one on the team could figure out how to add new content. So it just sat there, getting more and more out of date. But then came the rebuild. And wow, talk about a transformation.
Suddenly, the team could easily add new projects and blog posts. They could show off really cool, complex work. Every new page they created was automatically built in a way that search engines could understand. The website went from a time sink to a time saver. It became an asset again.
And this whole story brings us to a really critical point that goes way beyond just websites. It's about your business strategy. The hidden risk in all of this boils down to one simple question. Who is actually in control here?
Just look at this comparison. With a lot of those template platforms, you're basically a renter. The developer controls everything. The structure is totally locked down, and every tiny change means you have to open your wallet. You're dependent on them. But with a proper rebuild, you're the owner. You have full control. It's flexible, it can grow with you, and it becomes a true business asset.
So when you dig down, you realize the core problem often isn't your color palette or the font you chose. The real issue holding your business back online is a fundamental lack of control over your most important digital property.
So, as we start to wrap this up, the decision you're really making isn't just about how your website looks. It's about what your website is capable of doing for your business, not just today, but next year and the year after that. I absolutely love this quote because it just says it all, doesn't it? A redesign changes how a website looks. A rebuild changes what it can do. One is about cosmetics. The other is about capability. Okay, so let's boil it all down. Here's your cheat sheet. If you've got a traffic problem, you almost certainly need a rebuild to fix that broken structure. If it's a conversion problem, a good redesign might be all you need. But your ultimate goal? It should always be to own a flexible asset, not to be stuck with a fixed dependency. Focus on building something that can actually grow with you.
And so I'll leave you with this final, really important question to think about. Forget the design for a second, forget the colors, and just ask yourself honestly, is your current website truly built to grow with your business? Is it an asset or is it an anchor?